Welcome to LabInsider.com. You're joined by Max and Paul Zielinsky, Executive Director for the Federal Laboratory Consortium in Maryland, United States. Welcome back, Paul.
Hi, thank you very much, Max. Good to be here.
Paul, we're going to go right into it. We have our bonus questions that will give insights exactly into the role of science in the relationship with government and businesses. So, firstly, where do you see these innovations going?
So it's interesting. I think one of the biggest areas of growth in terms of science and innovation is this shift from the material world, if you will, to the digital world. I think that's one of those big areas of growth. We've invested a lot in it in terms of cybersecurity, because then all the security lays on top of it. But you see this shift from things like a material transfer to a data transfer. And the growth, and then of course, then you start expanding that to ever increasing things like quantum computing or quantum communications, and those. And a lot of that then is going to come back into how we work with data, digital materials, but also the microelectronics that support those materials and how we actually produce new products. So we're going that direction. It's that's very steep slope, and I don't think it's going to be something that is going to change soon. It's just one of those growing areas of the economy.
Well, actually, that's what leads me to the next question, because digitization obviously it plays a major role in the transformation of modern labs. What do you think they're going to look like in 5 years' time?
Going to be pretty exciting. Like I said, I don't think we're going to get away from some of the traditional science, of course. I do think there's always going to be a role for example, for chemistry, biology, physics. I mean, those things are here to stay. But, we're moving again more towards this digital. It's really important to have data storage capacity and the ability to manipulate all these data streams, high performance computing. Like I said, I think one of the more exciting things to start, is things like quantum science, where we're going to really start looking at, there's actually companies and products that are starting to come out in the quantum science field. And so where that takes off, where that leads us next, I think is one of those huge areas of growth.
But when it comes to the challenges that we're facing, so in the next few years, we obviously we don't anticipate any seismic events or any pandemics, but how well do you think these labs are prepared for a pandemic environment?
Well, I think we definitely have learned a lot. I don't think we were well prepared for this last pandemic environment, frankly. It's been about 100 years since the last major pandemic. And so I think, we're in great shape right now. It's amazing how far the world has come. It's almost been sort of like, you think about the science that went into something like, the world wars or something like that. We're almost at that stage, just in the big leap forward in operations from the pandemic and what that's driven science towards. Just even doing these types of things are now so commonplace, where you meet and you basically disperse your workforce and you have the ability to work from home. And you look at this digitization of things, and that's going to increase how many people can do work from home and from remote places, rather than having to come and having elaborate, scientific apparatus. Again, those don't go away, but I think there's going to be more investment in some of those bigger pieces of equipment, and we can get, disperse the workforce. We'll be in a better position to do that as well.
So what really needs to change? More funding allocated towards digitization or changing up the workflow?
Kind of an interesting question. I mean, I think, frankly, there's a lot that we can do in many different areas. I will say a lot of it's funding driven. Nothing gets done if it doesn't have some level of funding to it. So that I don't think ever really goes away. But our ability to modernize our workforce is going to be certainly critical in the science area, and just really realizing how we work and what's necessary to do the work. I don't think any of us would have accepted some of the way we work right now 2 years ago, that now we're almost thinking like, well, how do you go back to the way things were? And I don't think we can. I'm
not entitled to an opinion, but then again, no, I don't think we can either. But with that said, for any aspiring laboratory manager, either entering the workplace or attempting to reconstruct the old workplace, what advice would you have for this lab manager?
Well, the biggest advice, to be honest with you, comes from where I sit and what my interest is, of course, which is this idea of transfer. If anything, I would say look past just getting to the research paper. What is the application of the research? What difference does it make? Or to put it bluntly, who cares? Why should someone care about it? And how is that going to actually become something that benefits society, rather than simply getting to a paper? And if we can think about those things, we actually can, I think, have better research projects as well as actually see these things actually making a difference in people's lives.
Are there any trends or fads or any highly fashionable aspects of research that people should really cling on to or look out for?
Well, that's a tough one. Again, I'm going to go back to, I think right now is this idea that we're going to go digital. It's really easy to look ahead at that cyber future, but, we're never going to leave the material world. We are, in fact, real people that do real things, and I don't think we can leave that. So, when you start thinking about how the funding shifts, I think we got to still get back to the basics as well and keep that balance and maintain that balance, because otherwise we're going to, it's easy to chase the fad. Not that digitization is a fad, but that is a huge growing sector. But again, we still also need to take care of basic needs.
Paul, we have one last question, and that really comes from the heart. Are there any readings or any publications that you might recommend for us to sort of get up to speed?
Sure. Well, a couple quick things. Of course, there's our website. We're at federallabs.org, and we have some great publications up there. Actually, if you look at our media section, you can see publications and things we put out. Wonderful examples of success stories. Those success stories aren't there just to make it look at what great things we did. It's actually more useful in terms of examples of maybe what someone else can do. This is a company that was successful. They use this system. Maybe I can follow that pathway and do that as well. So that's an interesting one. I actually find there's a couple interesting, in terms of simply, the basic idea of what we do and how this works. I love there's a letter from an individual named Vannevar Bush that was written in World War II. He actually founded our National Science Foundation. He wrote a great letter to Franklin Roosevelt at the time. It was Science, the Endless Frontier. And if you've never read that letter, it's very inspiring. And it actually talks about how do you convert the process in place for World War II to do all of this research necessary for that effort? How do you win the peace? How do you turn that science and that effort to actually goods for people, advancement of just our society rather than a war effort? And it's really a brilliant piece given the date and what he's trying to accomplish. So I recommend that one highly. Frankly, if you look at the National Institute of Standards and Technology, they're part of the Commerce Department, and this falls, many of these areas interface with the Department of Commerce in terms of technology. So if you want to look at the reports, we produce an annual report of how you interface with government labs and what they do. That actually is on their website. So if you just go to NIST.gov/TPO, which is their Technology Partnerships Office, you'll see their publications, and you can actually read up if you're interested in all the data. There's also, I'll just throw one other thing I mentioned before.
Absolutely.
I think, NSF, our National Science Foundation, puts out amazing statistics. And if you've never looked at their science and engineering indicators, you will find really wonderful work that they've done through surveys and putting out data and information on many different fields and the progress of science.
Paul Zielinsky, thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much for having me.
That was Paul Zielinsky, Executive Director of the Federal Laboratory Consortium.